I need teachers to hear this clearly. Your exhaustion is not proof that your teaching is effective. Somewhere in education, we started confusing burnout with excellence. If a teacher is overwhelmed, overworking, overplanning, overextending, and emotionally drained, people often say, "Wow, they really care." And honestly, I think that belief is hurting educators everywhere. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Maria Angala. I am a national board certified teacher, bilingual special education teacher with 22 years in Washington, D.C., and the creator of A.C.C.E.S.S. Literacy Framework, an original six-stage instructional system designed for multilingual learners, dually identified ELL/SPED students, and inclusive classrooms. Today, we are talking about something that completely changed the way I teach: why student engagement should save teacher energy, not drain it. Because for many years, many of us were taught that engaging lessons meant more preparation, more performance, more energy, more creativity, more entertainment, more teacher effort. And what happened? Teachers became exhausted trying to carry entire classrooms on their backs. And I know that feeling personally. I remember nights sitting at my laptop trying to make lessons more engaging, changing fonts, adding animations, searching for activities, rewriting discussion questions, building slides, you know it, reorganizing materials, and at some point, I realized I was spending more energy creating engagement than my students were spending participating in it. And that realization hit me hard because I thought this cannot be sustainable. And I know I am not alone. Research shows continuously, okay, that teacher burnout is heavily connected to workload, emotional exhaustion, and behavioral stress. Studies have also shown that classrooms with stronger student engagement often experience fewer disruptions, stronger participation, increased academic achievement, and improved classroom climate. And that matters deeply because what if engagement isn't supposed to exhaust teachers? What if authentic engagement actually creates calmer, smoother, more collaborative classrooms? What if engagement is not performance, but shared ownership? So, one of the biggest shifts in my own classroom happened when I stopped asking, "How can I make this lesson more entertaining?" And I started asking, "How can students become more active in the learning process?" And that question changed everything. Because I think many teachers are accidentally carrying too much of the cognitive load. We explain everything, facilitate everything, redirect everything, lead every discussion, solve every silence, fill every quiet moments. Meanwhile, students become passive observers of learning instead of active participants in it. And that imbalance drains teachers emotionally. I remember teaching lessons where I left the room feeling completely depleted. Not because students were bad, they're not. Not because I didn't love teaching, I do love teaching, but because I was carrying all the energy and I was performing learning instead of building systems for learning. So that distinction became one of the foundations of my A.C.C.E.S.S. framework. The framework was designed to create clarity, structure, collaboration, literacy, interaction, and student ownership. Because the goal is not for teachers to work harder forever. The goal is to create classrooms where students think more independently and engage more meaningfully. So I remember one literacy discussion in my classroom that completely shifted my perspective. My students are the ones most teachers find this the hard to reach, right? So these are students with significant cognitive and developmental differences, and many of whom are also English language learners navigating two languages and then a disability label at the same time. So earlier in my teaching journey, discussions mostly look like this. I asked questions, students waited quietly, a few students answered, I redirected behavior, I repeated instructions, I carried the conversation. And by the end, I was exhausted. But later, after implementing more collaborative discussion systems, something changed. Students started responding to each other, building on ideas, asking follow up questions, challenging perspectives respectfully, and leading part of the conversation themselves. And I remember standing there one day thinking, this feels lighter, not less rigorous, not less meaningful, lighter. Because learning energy was being shared across the room instead of resting entirely on me. That moment deeply impacted me because I realized student centered learning does not reduce engagement, it multiplies it. So I think many teachers are trapped in what I call the performance model of teaching. And that is the belief that great teaching means nonstop teacher energy. But honestly, students do not need teachers to perform for 6 hours straight every day. They need clarity, they need connection, they need structure, they need emotional safety, discussion, and opportunities to think deeply. And emotionally safe classrooms matter more than people realize. Research consistently shows that students learn better in environments where they feel safe, psychologically safe, respected, and connected. But here's what people talk about less. Emotionally safe classrooms also protect teachers because classrooms built on fear, constant correction, and emotional tension drain everyone. I have experienced both environments. I've taught in moments where classrooms felt stressful and reactive. And I have experienced moments where students felt genuinely connected to the learning process. The difference in teacher energy is enormous. When students feel ownership, behavior improves. When students feel heard, participation increases. When classrooms becomes collaborative, teachers stop carrying every emotional interaction alone. That's why engagement matters so deeply, not because we are chasing entertainment, but because meaningful engagement creates healthier learning ecosystems. I also want to say something important here. Teachers deserve to protect their energy. And for a long time, I struggled with that idea myself. I thought being a good teacher, being a great teacher meant constantly giving, constantly sacrificing, constantly overextending. But eventually, I realized something. You cannot sustainably inspire students while abandoning yourself. For me, wellness become deeply connected to movement and dance. Dance remind me that I am still human outside the classroom. I can feel joy, freedom, creativity, breathe. And honestly, that restoration made me a better teacher. Not because dance magically solved the burnout, but because reconnecting with joy gave me emotional energy to return to my students more fully alive. And I think many educators are starving for that feeling, not productivity, aliveness. So, what does sustainable engagement actually look like? Within the A.C.C.E.S.S framework, it means predictable structures, collaborative literacy routines, student discussion systems, clear transitions, emotionally safe participation, and reducing unnecessary teacher overperformance. It means students becoming active contributors instead of passive receivers. And when implemented consistently, something powerful happens. Teachers regain energy, not because teaching becomes easy, but because the classroom becomes less hyper focused, becomes shared. It becomes a shared thinking. It becomes shared participation. It becomes something that is very collaborative, and that changes burnout completely. The A.C.C.E.S.S framework is currently being piloted internationally in the Philippines, with expansion into Myanmar and Malaysia underway. And if you want to learn what we're doing and how we do it, click the subscribe button below and follow this channel. So I want to leave teachers with this thought. Maybe the best classrooms are not the ones where teachers work themselves into exhaustion. Maybe the best classrooms are the ones where students and teachers come alive together. Because sustainable teaching is not about carrying everything alone. It is about building learning communities where engagement creates energy instead of destroying it. And I truly believe this. Teachers should not have to disappear emotionally in order for students to succeed academically. Both can thrive, students and teachers together. If you teach the students who fall through the cracks, or if you are one of those teachers who feels unseen, you're exactly who I made this for. So subscribe to this channel so we can share our expertise and experiences. The most exciting part is this: our A.C.C.E.S.S community is just beginning. And that means the people who join now will not be simply members. There will be founding members who help shape how this framework grows across countries and cultures. Years from now, when this work expands to more classrooms and more teachers, I hope that some of you will be able to say that I was there in the beginning. I'm very hopeful about what's ahead. Together, we can have an opportunity to make a real difference in classrooms and in students' lives. If you believe that education should be inclusive, innovative, and globally connected, I invite you to be part of that founding group. Thank you for being here today. And wherever you are in this journey, I hope you remember this: exhaustion is not the highest form of educational excellence. Humanity is. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.